Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And another day, another NFL trade. This time, wide receiver Amari Cooper is on the move. The Dallas Cowboys have decided to deal him to the Cleveland Browns. So, who knows? More trades in the world of NFL. Tim, you ready to cover it? We've covered all the previous ones, so why not take a whack at this one?
You know it. Let's run it.
Let's do it. So the trade, Amari Cooper has been dealt to the Cleveland Browns. Him and a 6th-round pick has been dealt. In return, the Dallas Cowboys get a 5th-round pick and 6th-round pick this year. So I know that a lot of Dallas fans are upset at the return, but let me just break this down right for you. It's another Khalil Mack situation. If you watched our Khalil Mack video, the reason why the Bears didn't get more than a second and a sixth was mainly because of the huge salary that Khalil Mack had that the Chargers were willing to take on. It's the exact same thing here.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper, his contract, when it was signed, was for 5 years, $100 million, which is the most among wide receivers in terms of total money. And right now he's tied for 5th among wide receivers in, dollars per year, like the yearly value. So the issue was not the picks, it was the salary. Cleveland will take on all of that contract, all of the remaining contract. And in terms of Dallas, it was hard to find a team that would be willing to pay the entirety of Amari Cooper's contract. I know they were in talks with the Jets. I know they were in talks with the Jaguars, like among other teams, but the salary was the difficult part, and Cleveland was a suitable partner for that. Quite frankly, if I were Amari Cooper, I would be thankful that the deal got done with Cleveland and not the Jets or the Jaguars. So I don't know, but for both teams, it's definitely interesting. Dallas, they clear Amari Cooper's hefty contract, and now they can use that money for literally anything else. And Cleveland, they get their wide receiver one.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because if I'm Amari Cooper, I'm not so sure that I'm happy that the trade went through with the Browns because OBJ is getting some flashbacks now of his situation and
Better
and all that.
better the Browns, who's a potential playoff team with a pretty good roster around them,
Potential.
than the Jets or the
Yeah,
Jaguars,
no, I
perennial laughing
completely.
stocks of the league.
Yeah, I completely get that and whatnot. And you're right that it is the need for wide receivers around the league, especially one of the caliber of Amari Cooper, is absolutely there. But there were not very many teams who could take on that contract, and that is definitely a key point for what Dallas was looking out of this deal, is they wanted to get that contract off the books. And yes, they're proving that they're buying into CD Lamb and his potential to be that number one guy, even without the really strong number two of Amari Cooper. And it's going to be interesting to see how it works out for both sides because for on the Browns side is now that the Browns have Amari Cooper, they've now opened up the door reportedly to allow Jarvis Landry to be on the lookout for a trade for himself. So we'll see if something happens in the relatively near future with that. And Jarvis Landry potentially leaving. But we've seen a lot of contracts get eaten within trades this offseason. I don't remember nearly as many
I don't
trades where
really
that's happened
remember.
in previous recent memory. So it's kind of interesting to see how many that's becoming a big part of a lot of deals. And I think that's why a lot of people are reacting to so many of these poorly, like, oh my gosh, we got nothing in return. Well, it's the silent deal maker of that salary getting eaten up.
The Carson Wentz trade, there was also a large salary that,
yeah.
Was eaten up in terms of $28 million. It's just that the Colts, because of the Russell Wilson trade, how much, the Seahawks got for him, the Colts got a little bit more in terms of picks. It's all a domino effect. And if you take a look throughout these trades, you can see common themes in terms of the picks that are getting dealt or, the salaries that have been eaten. But let's dive into how this affects, the individual teams a little bit more. And on the Cleveland Browns side, it's interesting because originally when Amari Cooper was dealt to the Browns is like, all right, cool. Now Baker Mayfield has a legit 1-2 punch on the outside to throw to. Amari Cooper, we know he's that dude, and Jarvis Landry has silently been that dude for many, many years. But then Jarvis Landry is open to seeking a trade, which is interesting. So now instead of right, those two playing
Yeah,
alongside
just
each
when you thought
other.
they boosted their wide receiver core, now it's looking like they're content to
Yeah,
let some of that go as well. So it's like I
it's
wonder what
almost like an
they're
exchange. It's like when
yeah.
one wide receiver goes in, another goes out. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see
I
how
mean,
that
if
plays out.
that's the case, they definitely ended up getting a
Oh
better
yeah.
wide receiver in terms of
Oh
the
yeah.
number one than they had, because without a doubt, Amari Cooper is the more serviceable wide receiver than Jarvis Landry, even though Jarvis's production when he's been healthy has still been pretty solid. But it's interesting to see what the Browns will end up doing then in terms of receiving core, whether or not if they lose Landry and don't get any other significant player in return, whether or not they'll be content to run with just Amari Cooper and the rest of the guys they had, or whether or not they'll try to go make a stab at somebody else, trying to add on to that core with whatever money that they do have left.
Tim, I think when you look into, the deeper like meat and potatoes in terms of salary cap,
Mm-hmm.
like Jarvis Landry has a pretty hefty salary himself. He
So
has a
could that
contract.
contract get eaten
Yeah.
by whoever he goes to or whatnot?
His
Yeah.
contract is 5 years, $75.5 million. So Jarvis Landry himself is also not cheap. And when it comes to the Browns, it's like, okay, we have one expensive wide receiver. Let's not have
Have
two.
two, yeah.
Yeah, let's
See
be a
if
little.
they can dish that out and see if they can get that money taken on by
Hmm,
whoever he ends
let's
up with. Then it
be a
opens
little
up the
bit
door
smarter with
for
our monies. Why don't we? So I
yeah,
think
it opens up
that's
the door
definitely
for
what.
them to look at other avenues of retooling that offense.
Yeah, but hey, Amari Cooper in a Browns uniform.
It's
So be
gonna look interesting. We're gonna have a lot of jersey changes this year that are gonna
yeah.
take some getting used to.
I mean, shoot, Khalil Mack in powder blue, Amari Cooper in orange and brown.
Orange.
Mm,
It's going to be an interesting sight. And here's the thing, and this is all just the beginning. There's still so much more that can happen with this offseason and more guys that can do some switching around with teams. So it could still look even more different by the time that we actually go to
oh
start the
yeah,
season
for
come
sure.
August.
Yeah, I mean, but for right now, Amari Cooper is a Cleveland Brown. On the other side of it, we have the Dallas Cowboys. And there were rumors for about the last week and a half that Dallas was going to cut Amari Cooper outright instead of, making a trade because, again, it's a lot of money that they're paying him. So Amari Cooper was going to be one of the cap casualties. But if anything, this is a better alternative because now if you're Dallas, you don't just like cut him outright. You find somebody that will eat the rest of the contract
And still get
and
some value out of it too.
you get a couple late round picks for it. So I mean,
Yeah.
hey, if you're
Once again, it's better than nothing in terms of just
if
releasing
you're letting
him,
a
so.
guy go, would you rather have late round picks or nothing at all? I mean, I think
Yeah.
in theory, in a vacuum, I'll take the late round picks.
Yeah.
So
You could
now
do something with him.
yeah. And the other reason why they didn't mind letting, Amari Cooper go is because now they have the best wide receiver in that division on the other side in CeeDee Lamb. So now they're going to look at CeeDee Lamb as their wide receiver one for years and years and years to come. And with the money that they saved, by trading Amari Cooper and having the Browns
Cutting that salary at least.
yeah, cutting that salary is a better way to put it. Michael Gallup is now on the table to be extended. And with wide receiver salaries being higher than ever, I mean, who knows? Maybe you can use a lot of that money to extend Michael Gallup, get him on your team for a few more years of control, and then go elsewhere in free agency.
Yeah, I think they're definitely looking to keep Gallup as part of that lineup because he was another one that dealt with a little bit of injuries last year. But when he has been healthy and working alongside some of the other weapons that they have, he has been very serviceable as last year, in theory, I guess, a number 3. But this upcoming year, most likely the number 2 guy. And I think he'll definitely fit well into a lot of those different positions and routes that they'll have him going on as wide receiver 2. And he's definitely a guy that I think is of significant value to them in terms of wanting to lock that up for at least a couple more years. And we'll see if they make any other moves with the rest of the money that they have, or potentially letting some other guys though to go to clear up some other money. So
Yeah, I know Dallas is definitely planning on making other moves because there's some rumors that Lyle Collins will get traded in, the coming days or coming weeks. He is allowed to seek a trade. They will have Dallas has a lot of stars on their team, individual stars, and I mean they can afford to pay them. They can afford it, but the question is like how much maneuvering will you have to do and who will get the guillotine because of it, being a cap casualty like Amari Cooper. So it'll be interesting to see where Dallas goes in the coming weeks.
yeah, no kidding. It's like they have
No,
like
Tim, I'm
like you
not
said, a
kidding.
lot
Why
of.
would I be kidding? We never kid here, ever.
You're such a jokester.
Hard, hard, hard.
The Dallas team is obviously a very solid one, and they showed flashes of brilliance there with the star power that they have. But you also wonder is like with some of the contracts they have and the guys that they have and them coming up short this past year with a pretty iffy showing, you got to wonder whether or not that it's in the back of their minds of let's move on from some of the guys that we had to try to build something new to sort of figure out that final piece of the formula that can bring them some more extended success and hopefully make a deeper postseason run.
I mean, they've been looking for the last 30 some odd years.
You know what?
So
Maybe they'll find it.
maybe, who knows? But I mean, the bottom line is Amari Cooper, now a Brown. Baker Mayfield has a legit wide receiver one to throw to. Jarvis Landry open to trades. And Dallas, they're set with CeeDee Lamb as their wide receiver one. They're okay with it, potentially going to extend Michael Gallup for some more years, and we'll see which other moves they make. But I think that about does it. We have had so many trades happen in the
They
NFL,
just won't
and
stop. The NFL refuses to quiet down.
yeah, and especially with college basketball, Selection Sunday is right around the corner, and baseball, their free agency, that stove is as hot as it's ever been. There is going to be a lot of stuff to cover on Running the Table, and the train don't stop. This is March. We sleep in May, but not just for college basketball, for all of sports.
That's what we're here for.
That's exactly right. But until next time, like and subscribe for more Running the Table content, and we out.